All right, so last video was part one of the behind the scenes breakdown of my latest short film, Unprofessional. We walked through the pre-production and production process, and today we'll take a look at the post-production, look at some scene breakdowns, the editing, and a little bit of the sound design. So let's get into it. With the opening scene, I really wanted to have a misdirect, starting with this character over here, our extra, revealing this car and then having our lead role pop out of this stairwell, just to create some visual interest. And I think it's important when you're creating any sort of film, writing a story, shot listing, is to start your story off in an interesting way. So let's watch this and we'll stop it here in a second.
Stuff in a box and you leave. What am I gonna do? Go find another career, go start another job? Go support my family on something else? You know what? You can't get rid of me, because I quit!
You all right?
All right, so stopping here, as you can see, we had to time the extra standing here at just the right moment so that when he yells his line, "I quit," he's sort of in the frame, but at a nice, pleasing composition. And we made this line here in the concrete his marker. So you can see he stops right on it.
Yep.
Right there perfectly on the frame left. And then we've got this cool sign here that says small cars only this side, which I think plays to the character of Terry well. So how we pulled this scene off with the box falling off the car was pretty simple. We just had some fishing line that was attached to the bottom of the box, and it was taped or stapled, and we had our gaffer Tyler actually pull it, mimicking kind of it sliding off the car hood. He gets frustrated, and I love this match cut, how this turned out. So smashing the hand on the car. I didn't know he was gonna do that in the take, but then it worked out perfect. One other thing I would just wanna point out is this shot here is a pickup shot of the next day. And as you can tell, it's sunny out, whereas this shot here, overcast, there's no light here. So it's a little bit inconsistent, but it was the best we could do. And that's indie filmmaking for you. So I want to move on to this next point of more of how to edit a really good story. And when you're writing the story is you want to think through tempo. And the tempo here is very much like we're increasing in his anger and frustration, and then we're backing off of that. And so you can tell the frustration builds right here. He busts out of the door. He builds up to a point. He yells, "I quit." And then he jumps into the car, says he needs to calm down. So he turns on the radio. So there's nothing worse than hearing somebody succeed or have good fortune or good luck when you're having a bad day, when you lose your job or things aren't going as planned. And that's exactly what's happening here with Terry, is things aren't going well. And the radio scene is just to put a little more salt in the wounds. So again, you can see the frustration. He tries to calm himself down here and then builds back up.
Happy for you.
I lose my job.
So the key part of this scene is what Fred says right here.
And to think I didn't even work for it.
Okay, so we're outside, exterior car, but now we're interior, kind of feeling the anger and frustration as it's violently shaking back and forth.
The American dream, am I right?
Okay, and then here's important that we just make this quick cut right here, going from violent frustration to this soulless, empty, depressed Terry. And then we enter into this quick montage, and then it ends with him burning his mouth. So just an editing point here is you really want to make sure that you know how to get into a scene and out of a scene, meaning there's good transitional markers, there's good story beats within your scene. And this is just that. So we have a story beat here where he loses his cool, and then it cuts to the microwave. So we're starting on this really high, intense moment, and then it pulls back. And then the way we end the music bed here, or the music track, is him burning his mouth. So that's how we get out of that montage and get out of that scene. So as you see, the audio fades off right here. Burns his mouth, and then we're segueing into the next scene, which is when he realizes there's a job flyer in his junk mail here. When he's dialing the phone, we're not actually seeing him do that. I trim that out and use it as a bit of a J cut, and then cut right to him answering or putting the phone up to his face. listening to it, and then we roll into this sound effect here. Then the story changes. He hears this ring back, and I'm just using an old Nokia ringtone, and all of a sudden we hear this new tone right here. I'm just gonna solo this track. I really love these minimal sounds that build onto the suspense of the scene. You don't want to over edit your music sound design. You just want to play off of what's in the scene and building that suspense. Don't just jump right into epic suspense, epic music score, but build off of it with these minimal tones that build on the tension. So as we're hearing that, we're hearing the ringtone in the back. He's realizing this is not coming from my phone, it's coming from inside my house. One note here is using these sound pieces to transition to other clips. So I've got it right here, transitioning to that wide shot of him approaching the wall. Now, at this time, the character doesn't know that it's in the back of the wall. We've got a couple risers here, building up to this suspense. The phone is ringing. And just to point this out, I could have moved these risers here, but instead leaving it to a point where we drop out the risers and then just hear the ringtone to underscore the anomaly of what's going on. And then we cut to our music piece right here. So let's check that out. Then the next clip here is him just walking into frame. More, not as much scared, but more of like a technician, someone who's looking to discover what the problem is and then approach it with a solution. So at this time, we have no idea that he's got a hammer in his hand. And then he just goes to town, smashing through the wall. In the story, when I wrote it, I thought it would be really funny, instead of having this guy breathing on the other end of the line and just this kind of scary voice, having it feel like it was part of another form of employment. Just as you would call customer service, you hear this obnoxious ring back and somebody say, you know, press 1 for this, or for Spanish, press 2. And so that's exactly what I did here, and actually hired somebody. I could not find this sound effect, so I had to hire someone to say this line.
This call may be monitored for quality assurance and training purposes. For English, press 1. Para español, oprima 2.
This was another thing, the VFX work here. Obviously, this is not a final. This is more what it looks like final. So we had a square piece of drywall that we cut out, and that was the hole that he actually smashed. We taped that to the wall, and then basically just masked that out, added some grain to it, and it turned out good. Let me jump to the end of the scene here. They have a little bit of a dialogue back and forth, and then Terry finally says, okay, if I were to take the job, what exactly would I have to be doing? And at this point, I drop out all sound effects, all music, because we're about to build into this really big crescendo. So that's what this looks like right here.
Okay, let's say I did take the job. What exactly would I have to be doing?
This is where Terry goes from being an innocent person to now breaking the law. Everything in that moment we're seeing on his face. Once we end this clip, I cut out the music and add this wide shot, just kind of feeling like, you know, this isn't 007 or Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible. This is Terry, and he's stealing stuff from the government. So this isn't really planned out. He's just booking it in your local parking lot, basically. So we cut the music out, he pops up, we dolly left, and then land into the passenger seat. So jumping into the coverage here, this is sort of our master medium shot, side profile of him, and then we jump over to this shot. Really like this. Bailey, our DP, put this one together. And it kind of, I mean, you just feel tight, like you're claustrophobic, like you're trapped in to this space. And that's exactly what our character is feeling in this moment. And then we've got a couple radio inserts here. Again, it's sort of foreshadowed from the first shot. It's a very similar composition, similar lighting. This is just daytime and a different day altogether. The same thing with the dolly out wide shot. So the last shot, dollying out from the passenger side there, and the same thing happens here, our last final shot. So that about wraps it up for this editing breakdown. If you didn't watch part 1 of the pre-production and production process, check that out. But this kind of breaks down a little bit of the intentionality behind the story edit, and then also the technical sound mixing and some of the cuts. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I guess we'll see you in the next one.